if you guys need to find a buyer, Facebook Marketplace ain't working for you, you could always Google "We Buy Houses Your City," and that person probably wants to partner on the deal with you.
Taking and doing a JV deal with a bad deal is only going to make the deal worse. Because I've also seen other investors or other wholesalers bring me a deal that they don't initially tell me they're JV'd already with somebody.
Now, did you have like a agreement for JVing? Did you write it down to say like, hey, we'll do this split?
Definitely got to have that. Like,
what are the components of that agreement?
The DealMachine REI podcast. Everything you need to know to get started in real estate investing.
I could say I wish I could go back and do it over and do it the right way, but I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I hadn't learned all these lessons. I wouldn't be able to have this call and say, hey, don't do this because I did this. So I hope that helps somebody. Hey, stick with your numbers. Like, you ran the numbers, you did the formula, you put the rehab budget idea together. Like, just stick with that. Be consistent with that and be confident in what you're presenting in terms of the numbers. Don't deviate. Don't go lower unless it's like you have to get the deal to close. Sometimes that's the case where, look, nobody's interested in the deal with the way the numbers are. You can't find a buyer the way that the numbers on. So what are the controllables? Well, you can control how much your assignment fee is. That's absolute. So the other part of it is the renegotiation with going back and trying to renegotiate a deal. But to me, it was always like, am I charging too much? Is my assignment fee causing this to not be a deal for somebody? So that's always the first thing that I would evaluate is, where's my assignment fee in this? Does this affect the way that this deal is being looked at? And it's the only real controllable that I had, because even going back and renegotiating a contract, the seller could say, no, I'm not going to do that. So there are times where dropping that assignment fee becomes a necessity, depending on if you can find a buyer or not.
I actually almost wholesaled a deal twice. And what I did was I found it. It was on this street called Brookside Avenue. It was like a 3-2 owned by a church in a pretty like rough area. And I got that thing under contract for $21,000, I believe. I was really unsure if it would be a great rental property or not for me, since I had never bought in that area before. So I was like, why don't I wholesale it? It'd be a great experience to wholesale it too. And I was like, well, the best spot I could find a buyer. Well, I wasn't as smart as you. I didn't put it on Facebook Marketplace. I think that's a great strategy. What I did is I Googled "We Buy Houses Indianapolis," and then I found the top 3 results. And I was like, why don't I just ask these guys if they'd want to partner on this deal with me? And so I ended up hitting up Simple Wholesaling. Brett Snodgrass said yes. So if you guys need to find a buyer, Facebook Marketplace ain't working for you, you could always Google "We Buy Houses Your City," and that person probably wants to partner on the deal with you. Has anyone ever done that with you, Ryan?
I have. In the course of the last 2 years, we have had so many other wholesalers bringing us deals.
Amazing.
In fact, this month, I'm saying last month, like it's almost over, but this month, one of the deals that we've closed was a deal that was brought to us from another wholesaler. And the deal was a very good deal. We were able to find a buyer within less than 24 hours. I had a consistent buyer that was looking for more properties, and the numbers all made sense. And they went and walked through it with us. They agreed to the assignment price. And that wholesaler's like, man, that was the fastest I've ever done a deal. And I'm like, that's the benefit of working with somebody that's doing it. But also, you got to partner with somebody with a good deal. Like, he brought the deal to me. Hey, this is a deal. Can you help me put a number together? I put the number together. We got it under contract. What I do see, and I will kind of throw a little bit of caution out there to some people, taking and doing a JV deal with a bad deal is only going to make the deal worse. Because I've also seen other investors or other wholesalers bring me a deal that they don't initially tell me they're JV'd already with somebody. So this has happened this last week. Somebody sent me, hey, I've got 2 properties in St. Joe. Would you be interested in doing a JV? And I'm like, yeah, tell me the numbers. And they're like, this neighborhood, ARV at most would be like $70,000 for this house at most. Great. It's not a great part of town. Like the properties were, I'm looking at the pictures. I'm like, well, that's easily a $50,000 to $55,000 renovation. I'm like, what's the contract price? $29,000. I'm like, this is not a good deal. And like, I always assume like our market is so different than like we're close to Kansas City. And people just kind of assume the ARVs in Kansas City are the same as what they are here. And they're so different, like so dramatically different. And so I just said, I'm like, look, the rehab is going to be 55. The ARV is about 70. I don't see 29 being a price. Do you have room to go down on either the assignment fee or can we renegotiate this contract? And they're like, well, we can't renegotiate the contract because we're JV'd with another investor. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, so this was a JV upon a JV upon another JV.
Yeah, don't do that.
And the number just kept going up. I'm like,
yeah,
it's no longer a deal for anyone.
So yeah, instead of trying to JV with everybody out there, you don't want to do that. I would say, find, if you're going to go the route of you want a JV, do the Google, see who comes up at the top of the list. They're probably the best in the market. So I would just pick that one person. They'll tell you, hey, we got to renegotiate this. And that's what happened with me. Simple Wholesaling was like, hey, I'm kind of at 14 grand. So can you go back and renegotiate? And then I said, yes. I went back, renegotiated. The deal fell through because the church had it with a mortgage on their actual church also, and the bank wouldn't release the property separately. So we didn't do the deal, but that was how I almost wholesale the property one time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that squatting up is absolutely the way to go.
So,
if you've got a deal, definitely, like if you don't have buyers, go to people that do. Like I'm always happy if somebody brings a deal that's a good deal, always happy to go for it.
Yeah. Now, did you have like a agreement for JVing? Did you write it down to say like, hey, we'll do this?
Definitely got to have that. Like,
what are the components of that agreement?
Essentially, the idea of the JV agreement is that you are splitting, that you're a 50-50 and partner on the assignment fee. And really, like I've had people come to me and they're like, hey, would you do 25% finder's fee? I'm like, nope, because I've worked for 3 years building the relationships with all my buyers. The last thing I'm going to do is give them a deal that's not mine and not make a reasonable profit on it. Mm-hmm. Like I know that, yeah, I could sell them this deal, but I also know that in a week I'm going to have another deal for them, mm-hmm. and I want them to buy mine. Mm-hmm. So I said it hard and fast. It's 50%. I've got a component that you need, and that's a buyer for your mm-hmm. deal. And that's just as important. That's why this is a topic on our podcast. It's an important component to an assignment. You are not assigning anything unless you have an end buyer. Mm-hmm. So the value for an end buyer, especially on a JV deal, is only fair to say 50-50, because that's mm-hmm. essentially that's the process in and of itself. Find a property, assign a property. Mm-hmm. That's it. So anytime somebody wants to come and say, hey, less than 50%, it doesn't make sense, because you're doing half of the work, or you're providing the second half of the value in this transaction. So it's important to have that assignment or that JV contract before you even send that to any of your buyers, because there's too many times I've experienced that we've locked up a deal with an investor. They closed on it. I got like $500. I'm like, hey, what's this $500? They're like, that's the finder's fee. I'm like, what was the assignment on this? Oh, mm-hmm. we were at 10,000. I'm like, well, then I should be at 5. No, it was only a 500. Well, nobody had that in the contract. So yeah. I was the one left holding a bag of $500 versus the 95 that they got. Mm-hmm.
And I'll take a bag of $500 any day. Now I'm curious. We've actually covered 4 ways to find buyers. I'm wondering how many we could get to. The first one was post on Facebook Marketplace. The second one was get a referral from an agent. That was kind of a combo for you. Mm-hmm. The third one was you kind of shared on social media that you were doing this challenge and a relative wanted to buy properties. So you got mm-hmm. introduced. And then the fourth way is Googling We Buy Houses in your city and then reaching out to one of those top wholesalers to actually JV with them. Now, are there any other ways that you personally have found buyers?
Yes. One of the golden nuggets, this might be the golden nugget of this episode, is a title company.
Really?
Go to a title company.
Walk me through that.
Yeah.
Any title company or just a specific one?
Well, you want to find a title company that's doing, wholesale transactions is obviously, you got to vet the
lot of title companies. They just do retail transactions. So
correct.
You could go to a real estate meetup and ask who people use for their wholesale deals, and then ask that title company.
Yes, find out the title company that does the wholesale deals, and or even title companies that work with investors. Like, do you ever do transactions with investors? Yes. Could you share with me? I have a couple properties that I want to sell. Could you share with me a few of the investors that are buying properties in the area? And honestly, I probably would not be able to get this done without having rapport built with the title company. So I would not recommend this being like the first thing you do. I would say it's best to build a little bit of rapport, do a couple deals with the title company, get them comfortable with who you are and what deals you're doing, build the rapport, and then say, hey, we're trying to do this often. I would love to be able to find a few more people in the area that are buying. Do you have contact to any other investors? And that has provided us with 3 new buyers that are consistent buyers to our list. All of these things, like, they were not in the 30-day wholesaling challenge. They are all important, but it's important to know when to do certain things. If this is your first deal, I don't know that you want to go to the title company and say, hey, do you have a buyer for this deal? I don't know that that's going to win you any kind of favor. A, they don't know who you are. B, they don't know what kind of business person you are. But the more you establish like yourself with them, the more they're going to be willing to help you, because that's bringing them business. So they were very happy to share that information with us. They gave us the contact information for a couple of the top buyers, and that was a very, very fruitful adventure.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.